there's something called a promote, which is your profit at the back end. Typically, private equity funds get a percentage of that promote. You're getting a piece of the profit at the end. And that takes several years, to get you there. Another route is you going through the development side. Again, you might start off, if you have a construction background of some sort, you might start off as a project manager. That's typically a salary position, but there is some kind of bonus at the end. So if you bring in a job on time and on budget, you're going to be rewarded for that. I started off with this business as a financial analyst, working for Michael Swartman, who was a New York developer that came down and developed Hollywood. I was on salary plus a bonus type situation. I knew nothing about real estate, nothing. I didn't know what CAM was, what it stock, zero. But I had a financial background. So I started learning how to bring models and underwriting, and I learned how to value property. Then I went to work for Ross Realty, which is a developer of shopping centers in this area. And my deal there was I had a salary. Every time I closed the property, I sold or acquired, there was, a piece of the deal, a piece of the commission rather. And then depending on how the company did every year, we had a bonus. Over time, if I was able to source the deal, I would get a piece of ownership, a small piece of ownership. But I was bringing deals to the company, so I was creating something. So without discussing specific numbers, I can tell you.
I was waiting for the numbers.
It depends what you're going to do. It depends what your skills are and what you're going to do. Some people are very detail oriented. They're going to go in through a financial background, which was more my route. And chances are you're going to start on the salary end with that. If you are more of a salesman type, whether it's representing tenants or landlords or investment sales, you're not going to be making so much at the front end, but hopefully if you're good, you'll be making a lot at the back end. It depends. Some people go the residential route, which, to be honest, I don't have much experience with, but that's kind of a brokerage situation. And to Chris's point earlier, you should all consider getting a real estate license. Start off with your associate's license and try to get a broker's license later on. Hopefully I've answered your question somewhat.
Well, actually, I want to go back to his question. How do we value our degree? What price range should we look at?
Same question.
Well, I think the value
He's talking range.
Yeah, numbers. He's a politician. I want
you want
numbers.
First of all, I think the value of the degree here at Nova, to me, is that you get an opportunity to network with people who are in the industry, and that will translate into jobs, hopefully, or a recommendation for jobs. I can tell you there's one student, former student here, who I knew, and he impressed me, and he was looking for a change, and I introduced him to somebody who had a position. He's been hired. He's probably making maybe 80 to 90 with some kind of bonus structure. Now, he has several years of experience, but just to give you an idea on numbers. But again, it depends what you're going to do, but I think the value of this degree is it might open doors to somebody who can get you a job in what you want to do.
Going back to the site, you mentioned that there was a broker who actually brought Whole Foods. Right?
Yes.
Do you use the same brokerage for the whole site, or you just?
Well, we use two separate brokerage companies, one for the retail, because that's their expertise, and then another broker for the office component. And for the land sales, we're considering maybe using somebody who specializes in land. But it's a completely different expertise. You want it, for the retail, you want to hire brokers who are active in the market, who know what tenants are expanding in the market, and have relationships with other tenant brokers.
I guess my point is, how convenient is to have maybe a set of 2-3 people which are really good on their customer or expertise, or having just one that does all the, because managing 2 or 3 is more challenging than having.
Well, you're going to hire one brokerage firm and they may assign one or two of their brokers to work the account. But if you have two retail brokerage houses working, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna spend, a broker only has his time, and that's what's valuable. So they're not going to take a project where you have two leasing signs, and when a customer drives by, who are they gonna call?
Yeah.
So they're not gonna take the assignment under those conditions.
Looks as though from your site master plan here, preliminary, that lot 9 is significantly larger, your office component, correct? In
Oh,
size.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's the demand driver for the retail, or one of
Well,
the main.
Actually, that's been a question mark. That's what we're demolishing, and the
Future demand driver.
Yes, and the retailers felt strong enough about this site and about the demographic that they still went in, even with a question mark as to what's happening with the office. I mean, Verizon Open and the real estate rep has been asking me repeatedly, what's happening with the office? What? I can't tell you yet. So, yes, it's a future demand driver, but it wasn't a contingency for them going in here. They still felt good enough about this site to do it. So going back to the site plan, I just want to point your attention to kind of the southeast corner here, where you see two boxes. So right now, next to Whole Foods, I'm about to sign a lease with a national fashion retailer. So that'll complete the lineup. I'll have Whole Foods, the other anchor, and Lazy Boy. That's done. So I have the southeast corner to go. So we've been internally wondering what to do there. Do we do more inline retail? Do we do junior anchors, big anchors? So because the project has had some momentum now, I've had two large retailers, anchor retailers show up, pretty close to the deal with one. And because we had two show up, all of a sudden we said, oh my gosh, we don't have enough parking. How are we gonna accommodate two anchor boxes? So here on the right, you've got Spire, which is a credit union. That was one of the lot sales that we had very early on. So we said, well, why don't we talk to them and see if we can shift them to another lot to the north, put them by the highway. Maybe they'll like that. Well, they loved it, and we've agreed to do a lot swap with them. We haven't done it yet, but we're very close to getting it done. And the reason for that is where Spire sits, we will be able to create surface parking. So if I'm able to do my two anchor deals, I'm all set with parking. So yes.
So the negotiation with the Spire, is it Spire as a tenant or the actual lot?
They own that lot now, and they were about to break ground on the credit union when we approached them. They said, oh yeah, of course, we'd love to be closer to the highway.
Are they going to lot 13?
We are going to go where it says Outback, lot 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where they're gonna be shifting to.
Same price?
It's a swap. There's no economic impact to it whatsoever.
Better
I'm looking
visibility.
at your project design,
Yes.
and there's a lot of parking space. I
You
was
can
just-
never have too much parking.
But, you know, I'm just looking at the trend,
Yeah.
to doing a little more vertical, a little more density, you know, and to make so sprawled out. I know you have enough land, but, you
Right.
know.
Well, part of the land that you're seeing there, kind of on the right-hand side,
Mhm.
that's a drainage area.
Okay.
Okay, and we've also created, for example, a pond, that's gonna be an amenity. We have walking trails on the perimeter. So that was part of what the city wanted. So of the 100 acres, we're probably developing about 70 acres. And the rest is green space, but you can never have too much parking. It gives you flexibility to do restaurants, it gives you flexibility to go up. Parking is a good thing. So, yes, sir.
So I see that Outback's a proposed tenant, and you're gonna move Spire to the
Well,
northwest.
we couldn't make a deal with Outback. They were gonna
Okay.
ground lease that pad. We couldn't make a deal with them, so that lot became available, yes.
Okay, so Outback is gone.
It's gone,
Okay.
it's gone.
Performing the deal, you guys are assuming that Outback for another retailer or restaurant would take that lot, right?
Either a lot sale or a ground lease or something, yeah, that would happen.
So being that you're gonna create Spire's,
Right.
proposed lot into parking, how does that kind of impact your financial
Well,
tenant?
We're able to add another anchor. is basically instead of doing just one anchor and maybe a little bit of inline space, which our leasing agents told you inline space in that area is not great because it doesn't have the visibility, so you're better off doing anchors. So it gives me the ability to do two anchors instead of one.
I work briefly with a company called Menu Development.
Yes.
Okay, and then they did a senior concept
Yeah.
in Ponte Plaza, and then they just happened to put a condo building in La Plaza, in a plaza just like this. Have you guys thought about doing condo?
Yes, we actually did, and I was about to get to that. So by doing this project, it's opened up some possibilities for us, okay? People have all of a sudden seen the site cleared. It's a very big site. It used to be wooded. There's activity, bulldozers, buildings. We have tenants that are now open. So we reserved this lot here, which is called Outlot E, so it's future development. We've gotten phone calls from multifamily guys, assisted living. So we are considering and getting that entitled to maximize the number of units, selling that off or JVing with a residential developer. And again, it's that vision that the city wants, so they're very supportive of it. They want somebody who lives in an apartment to be able to walk over to Whole Foods, or maybe somebody who works in the office building can walk home. And even though Minnesota is a very cold place, they really want that kind of open air type environment. So that's an opportunity which we didn't know what we were gonna do with that outlot when we first started this project, but now that it's rolling, the opportunity's been created. There's a market now.
When you're talking about land leases, are they still doing 90 years or?
No, ground leases, 20 years with options typically. For example, on that site plan, Bank of America has a ground lease. So our obligation was to deliver pad-ready site, and they are pulling their own permits, they're building their own building.
Is the idea to eventually sell the entire 100 acres off? What's the plan?
No, not the entire 100 acres. The plan is, and we're already doing it, we're already selling certain lots, like we sold to Spire, we sold to the hotel. We have under contract to a medical user. Most likely our investors will tell us that are in the fund, we want to retain the Whole Foods. That's kind of, they call it the jewel box in our firm, but we want to retain that. So the fund may sell the Whole Foods shopping center to the next fund that we create. And that way we'll keep it in our portfolio just for cash flow. But the smaller buildings, kind of on the left-hand side of the site plan where you see Verizon, those will probably be sold off individually. Again, maybe somebody has a 1031 and here's a 7,000 square foot building that they can buy, a credit tenant. So those will probably be sold off individually.
How long has this project been running?
Well, I just opened up my phase 1 retail. And I'm under construction on the Whole Foods portion. The site work, and by that I mean infrastructure, you don't see parking lots or landscaping or lighting yet. It's the drainage structures, everything that goes underneath. That's already been done for the entire site. So it's been going on for 2 years now. 2 years.
So for the outline, I know you mentioned you were looking to start the loan process for that, so this process.
Yes.
When would that time period be to work on that?
Well, we've already talked to the city to try to figure out what kind of density we might be able to get. We're back and forth in our office. Do we take it through the entitlement process ourselves and just try to get the maximum number of units? Or do we enter into a contract now, give the developer time, and they do it themselves? So those are the two things we're weighing, but it's maybe, 12 months out.
What is the city looking at?
They're very happy about it. It's part of their vision. It's definitely part of their vision.
It looks like it would be great also if the condo deal goes through to have maybe a concept of an open-door plaza or amphitheater or something that people can actually.
An amenity, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we in a smaller way, we try to incorporate that into the office design. We're thinking to do 4 offices around a central plaza, create some green space. I mean, that could be used for events and entertainment and so forth, yeah.
Does like the winter slow you down, like when it comes to construction?
Yes, actually, you know, I've always developed here in South Florida. My biggest concern with South Florida was getting my building, what he called dried in, and just the roof on before hurricane season. I always worried about building during hurricane season. In Minnesota, obviously not a concern. Then in Minnesota, the big rush is to get the footings into the ground before it freezes. And that has been a challenge with this project because every lease has delivery dates that you have to meet. If you don't miss the delivery dates, then they can abate your rent and or terminate it, which is worse. So we were really under the gun. We had to pull, you know, we had to give the contractor the green light as soon as possible so they could get started. They can build vertical during the winter, but once that ground freezes, you're sitting like this waiting. So that was a revelation to me. I never encountered that, so it's a different mindset.
Kind of a follow on with that, can you talk about, is there any substantive difference between the regulatory environment there and what you face in South Florida?
You know what, South Florida is a tough place to develop, I think as we all know, and site plans and permits take an awfully long time. Minnesota, my only experience in Minnesota is with this project. The city has been very cooperative. They're very strict in their design standards. So that has been a bit of a challenge for some of the tenants actually, because some of the things the tenants want to do, they can't. But as far as permits and site plans, that's moved along very quickly. I think a big part of that is because we went to them very early on and we're building what they want. We're bringing jobs to the area. So they've been very cooperative. If that had not been the case, I'm not sure if Minnesota would have been like Florida. One thing that is different is they have union labor up in that area, so your costs are higher. And there's a concern always when you have that situation if the tenants can bring in whoever they want, union or non-union, to build out their interiors. So I'm always a little concerned when I have non-union guys working alongside of union guys. So that's another difference, being up in that area.
To Dr. Fogarty's question, are there challenges for rezoning and those kinds of things? It seems like you may have some of those requirements on this particular project.
Well, the plat process, which was the process we went through to subdivide the big lot into multiple lots, took a while. So that was, I wouldn't say it was a challenge, but it just took time. It was a while. Zoning, I'm not aware of any big issues that we had. We respected keeping the office, which is what the city wanted, so we didn't have any issues with zoning. They gave us the retail because they knew we were gonna.
But what about density, FARs, and those kinds of things?
Well, the density remains to be seen on the residential, when we're trying to see just how much we can get there. I'm not sure where we're gonna end up, but we hope as much as possible.
That was what I was gonna ask, is there residential, I mean, are you considering a work, play, live environment with this project, and where do you see the residential?
The residential is gonna be rentals, we're told the market is smaller units.
Okay.
There's a lot of young people that live in that area because there are big companies that hire them, so there does seem to be a demand for the small units.
And where were you considering, because I don't.
It's to the right-hand side where it says Outlaw E, Future
Okay.
Development, that area.
But that's where you go.
So one thing I wanted to mention too, which you typically find in retail, and that's mainly my background, when you have a center like this, the retail leases, the anchor leases all have co-tenancy requirements. And those can be very tricky. For example, Whole Foods has a requirement that when they open, a certain percentage of the rest of the center has to be leased and open for business. And the reason for that is they don't want to open by themselves, they want kind of a vibrant center. The other anchor box that I'm working with next to Whole Foods, before they open, they want Whole Foods to be open, and they want one other anchor to be open. Well, I don't have that other anchor signed up yet, so that puts a lot of pressure. So, and then they all have dates. They want to be open by certain dates, and if you don't meet them, then you're gonna have problems. My bank also, before they close on the loan, they also want to see a certain occupancy level, they want to see certain leases signed. So it's a bit of a juggling act on a retail center of this size, when you have anchors, you just, you have these co-tenancies, or if throughout the life of the project, occupancy falls below a certain percentage, then your tenants can go to abated rent, 50% abated rent, you know, you're gonna take a hit on your income. So you've gotta be very careful too when you're leasing, you've gotta put in healthy tenants, national tenants, and here we have that, but other retail centers where you have just mom and pop type tenants, you gotta be very careful that, you don't get yourself into trouble. And during the recession, when you had a lot of tenants going out, some owners had shopping centers where their anchors were paying abated rent because they didn't have enough bays filled up and enough occupancy.
Well, to that point, what was the issue with Outback?
Well, they were initially very interested, and they had another location not too far away, which wasn't doing too well, so they didn't feel that strong about the market, and they didn't go forward. So, you know, no.
So it wasn't anything site-specific here?
No, it was more them, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was more them. Yes?
Yes, I'm not sure, I was trying to clarify. Did you say that you took care of the permitting in-house, or did you hire somebody
No,
locally to do it?
that's where Kraus Anderson, our development partner, came in, that they've been working in the city of Woodbury for years.
Oh, so you use their resources?
We use their resources, so they were responsible for getting the project permitted, getting it built. I mean, we were there, we got to know the mayor, the commissioner, we got to know all the political figures in the city, so we were part of that process. But at the end of the day, if I need a building permit, they're in the city getting it for me. And that's important because we're in Miami, you know, we're not part of the local scene, so.
Do you guys have any more projects in Minnesota currently?
Well, that kind of brings me to my next point. This project has gotten a lot of press because it's revitalized, you know, big site. So now we have another city, also in Minnesota, who's got 300 acres. It used to be a gravel pit, or, you know, it's just a horrible use, something not very nice to look at. So they've called us and they said, hey, please come on up, take a look at the site, see what you can do. It's an affluent, same thing, affluent suburb, nice area, but it's a big site. You know, this is 100, that's 300 acres. So it's you know, it's opened up some opportunities for us.
Are they gonna give you that land, or you gotta buy it?
What's the matter, right?
I think you've answered your own question.
Equity partnership.
They'll work with us, but they want us to buy it and come in and develop it.
Did they put a price on it? I mean,
No, not yet. This is just, you know, a city manager who's been reading the press, who's reached out to us. So,
How does a company from Florida, who develops in Florida, find this type of sites? Like, how do you go to Minnesota?
that's a very, very good question. Well, first of all, Florida is very competitive. There's a lot of foreign capital here, and you know, people like investing in Florida, so it's hard to find deals. This particular deal, one of our partners used to work for the firm that managed that office building. He was the asset manager, so he knew the site very well. They went out there and it made sense, so it was very relationship driven. A lot of what we source is relationship driven. The next couple of deals that might come our way are maybe a tenant rep who reps some of these anchors and say, hey, you've done a great job here in Woodbury. I've got a couple of other markets where I need to be. Find me a site. So that's kind of how, you know, kind of how it works. You kind of follow your tenants to different markets, or, you know, the city, this other city calling on us because they would like for a developer to come in and turn an eyesore into something nice.
as the owner of the entire lot, you get to, I guess, negotiate the leases with the tenants directly. But since you subdivided into separate lots and you're selling the portions off to different landowners, how do you control, I guess, the use of the type of tenants that go on the other property owners'
Right.
sites now?
Okay, so now we own the whole thing, so I'm controlling the leasing, and I'm controlling who goes where and the term and so forth. The tenants, to protect themselves in the future, want exclusives. So, for example, I'm a Mediterranean restaurant, I don't want any other Mediterranean restaurant in the project. The challenge has been, when tenants look at the site, I'm giving them an exclusive on this portion of the site. So my coffee guy, Caribou, wanted an exclusive on everything. I said no, because the hotel might have a little bar or something where they sell coffee or something. I don't want that exclusive applying to the entire project, so I gave it to them just in this portion. So that's a very frequent conversation for the tenants. But as far as the future, I mean, I've got 10-year leases with all of these tenants, whoever comes in and buys it. These tenants might change in the future, but they are protected, their use is protected while they're there.
So you're not necessarily selling off the lots to the owners, you're just losing those out?
We're not selling them now, we will in the future. So for example, lot 1, which is here, lot 1 contains 2 buildings, totaling 14,000 feet. I've got 4 or 5 tenants there. And then this is another lot here with, it's gonna have another 4 or 5 tenants. Those lots, the 14,000 feet, may in the future be on the market, or we may keep them.
So you wouldn't sell off any of your lots until you had it leased out for stabilization?
Oh, right, yeah.
One of the desires from the city was to get the office going,
Yes.
right? And then when you guys went ahead and developed the retail, and then you guys noticed that the office didn't work the way it was set up, at some point you guys went back to the city and said, hey, guys, you know, can you guys help us?
That's exactly what we did. We said, hey, we've been out to the market, you know we have, we've seen our marketing materials, we've had good interest, but we can't make this building work. We've got to demolish it. Please give us a demolition permit. And per our agreement, our development agreement, we have that right. So the city's response was, okay, but you know we want office here. We want office use. We don't want you coming to us asking to put more retail.
Well, my question was, do you guys maybe ask for some money?
From the city?
Yeah.
We've asked. But the answer is no.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
For someone looking to go the asset management route
Yes.
within real estate, what would you recommend the background they can sharpen their skills on and positions that might push them towards that and fulfill, help them fulfill that?
Well,
There's no direct path.
there's no direct path. I mean, if you're going into the asset management route, you probably want to learn how properties are valued. That's good.
Finance and property management?
Property management is a very typical route to enter into asset management. But if you want to go beyond property management, I think it's important for you to get a kind of a broader scope. So to me, it's very important to learn what adds value to property, because as a property manager, there might be a tenant who's rolling, whose lease is expiring next year. Well, maybe you want to retain them, or maybe it's an opportunity, and you should alert your leasing representative saying this tenant is happy, they're not happy, or here's a chance to take this tenant, combine it with the bay next door, and bring in a national tenant. So if you have that broader picture, it will make you more effective as a property manager. One thing I would encourage all of you, if you're interested on the retail side, try to get out to ICS events. There was one, and you were there, and I was happy to see that. There was an ICSC event here in Hollywood recently. It was pretty well attended. You're just going to hear the lingo. You're going to see developers there. You're going to see people representing tenants. You're going to bump into the same people from one event to another, and that's how you start building your network, and you start hearing kind of the lingo that's spoken. It gets you not only network, but it gets you an education. So I would really encourage all of you to try to get out to those events.
Thank you very much, Lori. We can take about a 2-minute break, and then we're going to get started here in just a couple of seconds.
What are you doing?
No, it's not.
What you gotta do the power?
It's a successful one.
CR, I was gonna last name. Okay, now I have the face to go with that.
I also told them that starting out.
You have a good snow guy.
I'd
like your perception on how it's very competitive here. And it wasn't so competitive when you start getting out of that mechanic. We're all in a market that's ground zero. I mean, look at how many students are Are you talking?
I'm good.
So like real,
Yeah, something like that.
so that's what happened.
Yeah.
My street I grew up on.
Yeah.
Everyone, except for my dad.
Okay, so you're just complimenting.
Okay, our next set of guests are going to be doing a panel discussion primarily focused on careers in real estate, along with a few other things. There are Eric Swanson, who's a member of our advisory board, Nicola Reed, who was a recent graduate of our program, a little over, I guess, 6 months or so ago, and then also Mike Riley, who is coming to us as a background in real estate as well. So, the three of you, look forward to what you have to say, and obviously a lot of questions from you guys. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's really lousy day with what's happened in Paris. Just what a shock. So, what I thought we would do is we wanted to get a bit of a cross-section. I am a developer by trade and have been doing that for some period of time. I didn't start out in real estate, started out in the construction industry. So I thought we would talk a little bit about how we got there, what we do today, what our companies do. Pike and I have known each other for about 100 years. And I've always looked at him as my older mentor. And anyway, Pike has taken a different route through real estate, but also I think a very fascinating story on what he's done and how he's done that. And then Nicola is the new kid on the block for us, and recently joined my firm and is a colleague of mine at Odebrecht. And I thought it might be good for her and you to talk a little bit about how she got the job and her thoughts were going through the program and what she's doing now, what she hopes to do. I've been very interested in learning what she wants to do next as well. So that's what we thought we would do. Feel free to interrupt, ask questions, make it very interactive, and go from there. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, very quickly, Odebrecht is a large global company headquartered in Brazil, originated in Brazil. and has created a global presence primarily in South America, North America, Africa. And a 75-year-old company. It's about a $43 billion in revenue. Its primary focus is in construction. About 190,000 employees worldwide. And we have diversified geographically as well as in the types of businesses that we're in. And it's a fascinating company in that it has always, from its very humble origins, started by Dr. Norberto Odebrecht 75 years ago, really focused on the client. And everybody says that. I mean, everybody comes up here and tells you that. Says, okay, the client's the most important thing. And they're all right, and everybody tries to do that. But I can tell you that they took that philosophy to a level I've never seen before in the 30-some-odd years that I've been working. They actually follow the client. So what happened is that he said, all right, we're going to build this, we're building this thing for you. So you, the city of Sao Paulo, and Sao Paulo, Norberto made a little bit of money, so Sao Paulo says, so gee, we've got to solve our housing program. We don't have any money. Can you get into the housing? Can you build me some affordable housing for people? And so he said, yes, you're my client. I will absolutely do that. And so that's how we got into the affordable housing business. Same thing in oil and gas. They said, we were working a lot with Petrobras. It turns out to be a really lousy idea if anybody's familiar with what's happening in Brazil today. But nonetheless, it has been a very profitable venture together. Petrobras said, gee, we need to, we built some platforms for them, some oil and gas platforms that you carted out to sea, and they put drill rigs on it. They said, well, we don't have enough money to really fulfill the entire thing, so can you help us do that? And so lo and behold, we're in the oil and gas business. We're also in the defense business. We build submarines, we do farming, we do water infrastructure. So we do a variety of things all around the world. And Africa is probably the primary example of that. We landed in Angola and had built everything because there was nothing there. So we had to build a place for everybody to live. So we built shopping centers, we built movie theaters. These are not things that you would typically think of as a construction company. So that's what we do. In the States, much simpler. We're a construction company. We have built very large infrastructure projects, projects like the Adrian Arsh Performing Arts Center in Miami, the American Airlines Arena. We build roadways. We did not do 395, this improvement. That's the kind of thing that we would do. We're currently doing 836 down in Miami. So that's the kind of stuff that they do. My background was and has been in the development business. And so when I'll spare you all that part of the story, but I came out through Cardina and then Flagler, and then while at Flagler, then it was time to leave Flagler, and I wanted to work on larger projects. I wanted to work on infrastructure projects. My feeling has been that there will be a greater emphasis on this type of development throughout the United States, that the way to repair the crumbling infrastructure in the U.S. is going to be through P3 projects. And so I felt like that was something I wanted to be a part of, need to learn about. Odebrecht was a great place. I had good friends there, and so we figured it out. And so I joined them about 2.5 years ago for the purposes of creating a development arm for them. Traditionally, they would respond to a bid, do an RFP, RFQ, and get a project and build it. And what they wanted me to do is like, gee, this is great work when we can get it, but it's always very competitive, and we got to elbow everybody else out. We got to compete with Skanska and OHL and all the big guys. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to bid all of our projects? Why don't you try to help us get on the development side? We'll create something, we'll be an owner, and we will then be the contractor. So we get the development upside as well as the construction upside. great idea. They intended to put in money to accomplish that task. And then, of course, then we've run into all sorts of problems in Brazil. They've said, okay, we're not going to make any more investment, so we're not going to put any money in. So the challenge has been to create this development business with no money, and that's a challenge. So, so that's what we've been working on. Nicola's been an instrumental part of that, and we're very focused on working on projects that are in the public realm with municipalities, counties, airports, ports that own their land and then allow us to step in, get control of the land, do ground leasing, and then create the venture. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that your company is involved with that iconic structure that's going up at Bayside. Based on what you're telling me about the lack of funding, tell me about that, how you guys are engaged in that. I believe it's a P3.
I don't know that I would call that a full P3. I mean, P3 is this categorical term that everybody throws around. In that case, skyrise is what you're talking about, and that's the it's the huge pin in the sky. Do you all know what we're talking about?
No.
No.
What's a P3?
Yeah.
Okay, let me back up. All right, yeah, sorry.
Throwing on terms we don't know.
All right. Okay. All right. P3 is public-private partnership. And the concept of a public-private partnership, or a P3, is that the government, the public part, works with the private industry, the Odebrecht part, to create a development together in some way. So it could be that the government pays for part of it, and the private side puts in more of it. And there's a variety of ways that it can work. In the case that, and what's your name?
Claudius.
Claudius. So what Claudius is talking about is a skyrise. Skyrise is gigantic structure that Jeff Berkowitz wants to build down at Bayside, and it is a tourist attraction. It is a very tall cage-like facility that comes up and then kind of looks like a little curve coming down, and it'll have a ride on it where you'll be able to drop. So it's, you know, they'll have restaurants. They'll be down on Bayside, so everybody can go have a few beers at the Hard Rock and go zip around in some jet skis and then get up on this thing and drop a couple of and so it's not the kind of development that I grew up thinking about, to be honest. But Jeff Berkowitz, who is a real guy and a real developer, he's developed several things, but primarily on the retail, some of what I think Warren's probably talking about. If you're familiar with the 5-story structure at Alton and the MacArthur Causeway, you know, Miami Beach, there's a Publix on the ground floor and there's a Best Buy, right? Alton and 5th. He did that. He also did the Dadeland, we call it the Tower of Power, the 5-story Best Buy, Sports Authority, Michael's, down at near the Dadeland North station. So now, y'all have seen those, and you think, okay, well, okay, so what? Those are cool things, but remember when he did them, nobody ever built retail on top of the other retail before. I mean, this was really a dynamic thing that he did, and very, very successful. So Jeff knows what he's doing, and he has taken on the skyrise and is trying to assemble the money to do that. Our role has been purely in the construction side. So what we've done is we've actually been able to, it's kind of the benefit, and this is where we specialize, is that we brought engineers from around the world to come in and help the engineers design this facility on how can we build this thing effectively over water and do it less expensively, and so that when you drop, you can make sure you stop somewhere before you so so we were able to save him about 5 months in construction time period in his schedule, which is a huge amount of money, and we were able to lessen the cost of the project. Now he's still about by my last count, about $50 to $75 million short of being able to say go. So we may start helping him work on that. That's a whole other part of what we do. So we're working on that part of it. So that's effectively what I try to work on. And I was going to respond. It's a P3 in some ways. People like to call it a P3 because the public is involved and it's a ground lease with the city or the county? I forget.
City.
It's the city of Miami. So the city of Miami at Bayside. So they're going to lease in this little acre of ground down there. And then I guess it is a P3 technically because he requested $9 million of funding from the county out of their little pot of money that they've got for projects like that, which I thought was a huge mistake. I don't know why he did that for $9 million. The whole project cost $430 million. So $9 million is not, it's in relative terms, it's a drop in the bucket. And I think the pain and agony he went through to get that $9 million was just crazy. And it just invited everybody to come in and tell them how much they didn't like it or didn't want it or didn't want to give them any money. Why invite that problem? But he got the $9 million, so he was proven correct. So, yes, sir.
I've actually been following Other Break for a while now, and you guys are doing like Civil Road, the US 290 in Texas. A friend of mine actually is working on that project.
Yes.
Right out of undergrad, I had two options: go with Skanska or go with Other Break. But back then, the problem with Other Break is that it's such a huge global company, and this was back when in the Cuban market, you couldn't do business in Cuba and do business in Miami. So just out of curiosity, I started following it then because I wasn't sure where it was going. But how did you guys overcome that problem being in a global market and having working in this country affecting being able to do business in another country?
Any Cuban immigrants here? Any press here?
Confused about the whole thing.
Okay. That's interesting. We are doing the project you're talking about, the Grand Parkway in Texas. And is he still there? Is he still working on it?
Yeah, Jack.
Good. Glad to hear that because it's been a really difficult project. It was a $1.3 billion transportation segment, and it's the those who've been to Houston. It's like the third outer ring of Houston. So they keep building these roadways all around Houston, and this is 3 sections of this third outer ring. And I'll go down a rabbit trail and I'll come back to the Cuban thing real quick. That was a project that we contracted with the state of Texas, TxDOT. And we made several mistakes on that project. One of them, and it started early, is that in our contract, as I mentioned, this is the third outer ring. So they're building this roadway, completely outside. You got Houston, you got ring, and then you got this other section over here. So there's 3. Thank you. So you got 3 sections of this outer ring that you gotta. So we're building from right here to right here. That section. It's $1.3 billion. And the agreement with TxDOT was, all right, well, one, TxDOT didn't own the land, okay, so they only owned little pieces of it throughout here. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to buy all the land, and whatever we can't buy from the local people, we're going to exercise eminent domain. Do you know what eminent domain is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, from a private citizen perspective, nobody likes eminent domain, right? Because it just angers everybody. And our agreement with TxDOT was, they said, all right, look, we're going to pay you $1.3 billion to build this. You're going to do it in this time frame, and we're going to buy the land. And we said, well, what happens if you can't buy a mile or it costs you more money than you want it to cost? Is there a risk that you're going to stop the project? And they said, no, that's our risk. we're gonna employ the people, they're gonna work under your tutelage, so you're gonna be there cracking the whip on them to buy it, so they, you know, got all these brokers from wherever, and they put them in there, and they said, okay, go buy this land. But whatever the cost was, that risk was on the state of Texas. So in that sense, it was a P3, so there's some cooperation there. The risk that we should have avoided was the timing risk, which we screwed up on. So we could actually be building a roadway here, and then building a roadway here, coming this way, coming that way, and we go, oops, we don't own this piece. And while we don't have to, you know, the rancher is gonna hold out, and he's gonna make a little extra money, we're not obligated for that, but we are obligated for the schedule. All right, it's a huge mistake. So from and if you know anything about construction on roadways, which I know just enough to be dangerous about, it is just, look, I admire your friend that can work with us on that project, because I gotta tell you, the only worst job in the construction industry is working on the roof. It is hard work. And the whole purpose, the only way to make it work is have a flow. You gotta have a system, you gotta build that asphalt, you gotta build that underlayment, you gotta do the finish out, but you gotta keep on going and keep on going. And the minute you stop, take a break, you're screwed. So it has not gone really well for us out there, unfortunately. So, back to Cuba then. So, the origins of Odebrecht are Brazilian, and the concept when you sign up to go to work for Odebrecht, they say, we may move you anywhere around the world, and we expect you to go. Are you cool with that? And you effectively say, yes, I'm cool with it. If you say no, then you got to be really good. They're going to hire you. Or they're going to say thanks, but no thanks. And so we got people that move around all the time. You move from Brazil to Angola, and some places are nice places, and most places are not nice places, not as good. U.S. happens to be a pretty good spot. So it's kind of the desire for everybody, if they can, to get here. So that's how the global part works, and they're emphatic about that piece of it. So if you work for Odebrecht, the good news is that you're probably going to have the opportunity to work there a long time if you choose to do that. But it's also possible that you could get shipped out to Angola for a tour of duty, or Libya, or the jungles of Peru and build a dam, so stuff like that. So you got to be ready to do that, and it's not for everybody. One of the good things about it is we're a very decentralized company. So Peru is completely different from the U.S. And the organization is very decentralized. So the U.S. has its own operation. We have our own officers, our own corporation. Bless you, we borrow money from Brazil to fund some of our businesses, but we're truly borrowing it from them, okay? And very entrepreneurial in that sense. So we started this big project called Airport City in Miami. Airport City was the project I actually was hired to begin, or to start, finish really developing. Start and finish it, it's a long story. It's dead. So, but anyway, Airport City was a big project in Miami. And our arch competitors is a company called MCM, the Bonilla Brothers. And they're very nice people, they're great people, and I would encourage you to get a chance to listen to them, get them in here, then they would be great to, but their background is they're Cuban exiles, right? So we start Airport City for Odebrecht USA. We win this bid. It was our idea. We convinced the airport this was a good idea. They took 2 years to negotiate how to do it. We spent $10 million on design. And then MCM said, well, wait a minute, we kind of like to build that. Well, you know, maybe it's a little bit unfair that Odebrecht is getting to build this, we want to build it. And they said, well, you have the right to do it, but we need you to pay for it. It's a true P3, so the private industry is paying for it. MCM, you want to do that, then great. And they said, well, no, we don't want to do that. You know, it's a over $1 billion project. We're not interested in that. We just want to build it. And so simultaneous to this activity, Odebrecht, I don't know where it's originated, but somebody in Sao Paulo decided, hey, you know, Cuba is a great place. Let's go to work in Cuba. And so Dilma, the president, and this is how these things work. Dilma, the president of Brazil, calls up Fidel, or Fidel calls up Dilma, however it worked, or Raul called Dilma. And they said, look, we've got this whole port over here that we need to renovate and redo, and we want to get it into the mainstream marketplace. Can you help us do that? And we said, well, it's, you know, it's about $1 billion. And they said, I know, and we don't have any money, so, you know, can you help us with that? Well, what we did is there's an organization in Brazil called BNDES, and it's the national bank of Brazil, if you will. It's the public national financing mechanism. And BNDES actually places investment and debt around the world, and usually to the betterment of something related to Brazil, in some way, shape, or form. Low interest rates, you know, it's like 1%, 2%, something like that. And they have billions of dollars, or had billions of dollars. And so Dilma said, well, $1 billion, no problem. We'll call BNDES. BNDES will loan you the money. We'll build it. BNDES will pay us. And then, by the way, you ship a bunch of doctors over to us because we're short on medical people. And so everybody says, yeah, great idea. So we then mobilize in Cuba and completely renovate the Port of Mariel, get paid by BNDES, Brazil gets the doctors, and everybody's happy. And MCM sees an opportunity and they leak to the press and they say, oh, by the way, these people you're doing here at the Miami airport, the Airport City project, they're also doing work in Cuba. And that just raised the hackles of all the Cuban immigrants in Miami, which is a very vocal minority, by the way. And then they very quickly got their team of politicians to pass a law at the state legislature that effectively said no municipality or government agency in the state of Florida can do business with any company that is doing business with Cuba, or they threw in Syria for good measure. And passed it. Well, it's illegal. You can't do that. The state of Florida can't do that. It's a violation of national policy, national law. They don't set those laws.
But the laws have changed now, Sally.
Well, yeah, we spent the next year challenging the law. We had to hire all the lawyers because the state of Florida couldn't do it. The governor and ourselves are very good friends, and we called him up. He said, Governor, why did you sign that thing? And he said, well, because I kind of had to. You know, politics, I have to. So I said, well, look, I understand it. Just sue me. It's okay. And that's what we did. So then we spent the next year challenging in court, getting it thrown out in court, justifying the position, so then we were clear, ready to go. We still didn't get the Airport City project because the whole deal died of natural death. So.
But neither did the other guys.
No, neither did MCM, but they declared it a victory, though. So.
Yeah, well, that project is coming back, though.
Airport City?
Yes.
Okay.
So keep your eyes open.
We clearly have to talk about that. Yeah. Now, there's actually a lot of good things happening at the airport.
Yeah.
We're very involved in a lot of things, so I'm looking, that's what I'm working on, a lot of it.
Wait, so did they do the development in Cuba, the port? Or
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's
By the way,
done.
they finished the Port Mariel renovation long before the whole Cuban thing got resolved here,
Oh, okay.
and we made $1 billion in the process. So, from the whole time we're going, Brazil, how can you do this to us? You're killing us, And they said, Sorry, we're making $1 billion,
Do
so.
they wanna go back to, do they wanna?
We're still there, we're still in
Oh, they're
Cuba.
still doing?
Yeah.
still doing
I
well?
mean, the
But also
$1
proves, I
$1
think, the
billion.
political environment is very much, is clearly softened. This was obviously all happened before President Obama declared a little easing
And the
of
Pope.
sanctions.
I'm just curious, how getting all the construction materials and all that, does that all get shipped in, or,
In Cuba?
yeah?
I'm not sure, I don't really know, to be honest with you, but I've been to Cuba, and I can tell you that all of the materials that they were getting for all the renovations they were doing when I was there, I did not see Puerto Mariano, but in Old Havana, they're getting most of their materials from Mexico.
And by the way, you guys did a good job with Panther Stadium.
Thank you. Thank you, we're very proud
Has
of
your
that.
firm done, has your firm completed any resort development?
In Brazil, we have, not in the US. We've done some, we did a hotel in Key Biscayne and a condo in Brickell, condo project in Brickell. I wouldn't call it a resort.
The Ritz-Carlton?
Ritz-Carlton, Key Biscayne, yeah. Brazil, we've done a lot of resorts. In fact, that's one of the primary things that we build there, our resorts. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking, your projects in Angola and those places,
Yes,
how are they funding?
BNDS.
I mean, is it equity money being invested and then the government pays over time? How?
Yeah. A lot of the public-private partnerships, you'll hear a term called availability payment. And effectively what that means, you'll see that a lot in the States. It's beginning to become much more popular in the States. And a much simpler example than Angola would be, we want you to develop a train system, which we do. We'll build the trains and the station to link places together. So Texas is a good example of that, something we're working on in Texas. So a P3 project with an availability payment there will be, okay, Odebrecht, we'll let you build the train, put the train in, we'll cooperate, we'll buy land or we'll donate land, and we'll maybe put in some money for a train station, but we don't have all the money, and then we'll continue to pay you provided the trains run on time, provided the trains are available. And so what that does is that it turns the tables a little bit and it says, okay, private industry, you have to, you can do this, and you can even own this building, whatever, how ownership becomes a little bit cloudy when you talk about these big public projects like this. But you can own it, you can collect the revenue from it, you can, the train fees and you can rent out the retail, and you can, you can collect all the revenue associated with this project, but we're only gonna pay you $500,000 a month, provided the trains ran on time 92% of the time, right? Or provided that the roof is intact, it's well kept, that the lights are on, there's no broken fixtures, and that everything is working very well. And that's a huge P3 policy in Canada. Canada is probably 20 years ahead of the US.
Well,
in
the tunnel
P3
project is just like that. The
Pardon me?
Miami Tunnel project.
Yeah.
It's a similar model.
Very similar,
Yeah.
very similar model with Whigs in France. Yeah.
If you are relocated, does your pay change based on your location?
Things are paid.
Like, do you get a premium for this, or,
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Yeah, you get danger.
I asked that question to somebody the other day, and so yes, they confirmed that they translate it, because the other issue, it's not even so much the pay rate and scale, it's can you get your money back out? So if you're doing work in Venezuela doesn't let you take whatever the Venezuelan currency is. They don't let you take that and just empty your bank account and go to the US. So they pay part of your salary in whatever the Venezuelan currency is, and then part of it in US dollars.
I have a question about, when your company is based in Brazil, you're subject to foreign stuff that has happened in Brazil. For example, a friend of mine used to work for the United Arab Emirates,
Mhm.
and then they just went through an entire restructuring because they're like, hey, it's a, you know, Arab country, and so they do things the way. Do you face the same, similar challenges? Clearly, right now in Brazil, their AI is just like tumbling.
Yep.
And so what does that do to your international business? Are you guys protected because you're in North America, or is it all tied back to Brazil ultimately at the end of the day?
That's a great question. It sucks. I'm just gonna tell you, right?
That's pretty clear.
The brief version of the scandal as I know it in Brazil. Anybody been to Brazil? Yeah? Okay, what's your reaction to Brazil as you go in there? Honestly.
It's very third world in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
Yeah. I was surprised at that. I've been twice, and I was very surprised. It's not what I had thought. It's very much a country that you pay to play. I mean, that's the way it works. I mean, now, our company, I will tell you, Norberto Odebrecht, who passed away 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, was a prolific writer and organizer, and just this moral, ethical guy, and it's unbelievable. I mean, they teach his writings in Harvard on the moral and ethical behavior within companies. And that was one of the reasons that I went to work for them. And it was, I mean, I've been working for a long, long time, clearly one of the older hires that they've ever made. And I still had to go through the indoctrination course of going through the books of a principle called TEO, T-E-O.
Entrepreneurial technology.
Yeah, thank you. It's the Odebrecht Entrepreneurial Technology. So it's like a patented thing that he did. And then lo and behold, the whole world blows apart in Brazil because Petrobras, which is the nationally owned oil and gas firm, apparently had a pay-to-play program for all of these contractors. And then remember BNDES that I talked about. You know, all the people in the slums of Brazil said, wait a minute, you got BNDES, which is shipping out billions of dollars to Angola and Cuba and Peru and Ecuador, and look at the favelas, look at, I can't even get to work. I can't take my kids to the beach, you know, because it's dangerous. So you got a relatively mild, right now, revolt going on, and hopefully it stays in that way. But you got a lot of people in Brazil that are very upset with the haves and the have-nots, and most of the haves fall within the government. And we got very much caught up in the same sting operation as Caro Lavo, I think is the name of it, which is Portuguese for car wash, meaning the cleansing. And they identified Petrobras as doing this pay-to-play program. And there's about a dozen companies out there that apparently did that. So then what did they do? They went and they arrested the officers of these companies. And they threw them in jail. They threw our CEO in jail. He's still there. He was in jail for 2 months before they even charged him. Yeah. You know, so this is a country that's supposedly not third world, right? And most everybody else would have said it's not a third world country. But if you visit there, you go, yeah, it is. And their legal system is similar to the U.S., but this judge exercised a great deal of power and said, we're going to arrest these people, we're going to throw them in jail, and we're going to keep them in jail. In Brazil, they're not used to that, and ultimately they'll talk. And that's what's happened. Is that all these other companies have talked, and they said, okay, yeah, we did it. So we're going to pay a fine, get us out of jail, get us back to our families, let us get on with business. Marcelo Odebrecht has not admitted to it. It'll break my heart if it turns out that he actually had any knowledge or that we actually did anything wrong, but I'm not naive. We probably did somewhere. But it also was probably like speeding on the highway. You know, you either do it or you die. So, I don't know. So how does it impact us here? It impacts us in two significant ways. when we go to borrow money, the rating agencies say, can you survive this? Because not every company is surviving. So the rating, which we've always had excellent ratings, financial ratings, kind of backed up a little bit, so money got more expensive if we could get it. So that impacts us. Secondly is we were gonna go after this section on the Grand Parkway. We're there with a joint venture partner, Zachary, a Texas contractor. Zachary's one of the reasons that this project is also a problem. So it's turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But Zachary said, well, okay, well, let's go after this. This was a year ago, and then all hell broke loose in Brazil. And they came back and said, I don't know, man, you guys got a lot of baggage. I'm not sure this is a good thing anymore to have you on our team. Even though you're clearly carrying this, I don't know we can ever get it. So it impacts that. It impacts the partnerships and our ability to get new work. So it absolutely has an impact. Aside from the fact our CEO is still in jail, that's an impact.
That question, it kind of plays the one that I have is at the beginning of the presentation, you said that you're keeping very small in development. How have you created now opportunities using a company that is still a very powerful company to actually keep your department going? I mean, what are you guys working now, and then how have you used your expertise and knowledge to make things happen here?
You guys are very smart. This is a good, smart group. I don't think, this is just Eric Swanson talking, not as a representative of Voter Rush, but for a brief moment, I will tell you, I do not agree with our strategy in the U.S. on how we are approaching the scandals in Brazil. I think we got to hit them up front. We've got to be very clear about what it is, what it isn't, and be very public about it and move on. We're just not saying anything. So it's like, okay, the best strategy seems to be, well, if they haven't heard about it, then don't worry about it. I think that's foolish. I think it's naive to think that educated buyers in the U.S. are not going to be aware of it. So it happens a lot in the circles that we want in. They ask because they're knowledgeable people. So they say, well, how's this going to impact you? Now, the answer is it doesn't really impact us because I don't borrow money out of New York. It doesn't impact our ability to borrow there. I don't have that kind of relationship. Secondly is we're decentralized, so I never call on Brazil for anything. I mean, they long ago shut the spigot of money off, so I don't get any money from them anyway. So the reality is you as needing our development or needing our expertise, it's the value of the people here on the ground that is providing those services for you. And yes, my card says Overbrush on it, but what you're really hiring is Eric Swanson. And that's how I approach it. Been successful so far. Haven't had anybody say, okay, well great, you're not enough. So I haven't had that. But I think that's got to be the approach. I think then on the construction side, I think we've got to be very judicious about the types of projects that we go after in our geography that we want to go after. You have to be able to either do it in a public environment where they can't take that part into consideration, or that that's not viewed as a negative, or just do straight hard bids where price is everything. So if you get it, if you're qualified to do the work, you've done that kind of work before, you're eligible.
And then in the development portion or in the construction, are you guys working on something right now that we can share?
Yeah. In fact, Nicola's doing, she does most of the work. I just talk a lot. We're very focused on the aviation side of the business. I think aviation is an area that's going to grow a lot. And generally speaking, airports around the country, and certainly within our markets, need to be upgraded and need an infrastructure think that there's work to be done there. Also working on a project to the east of Miami Airport, which, you know, where all the old rental cars used to be, is an area called Palmer Lake. Hopeful that we'll be doing some work there as well. So those are the two immediate things, and I've got another half a dozen things in the pipeline. Okay. That I can't tell you, because I think Claudio's listening too hard.
Quick question, so I'm from Colombia, right? And do you guys have any projects in Colombia?
Yes.
Okay, because
I don't know what they are, but I know we're in Colombia.
I haven't gone back in like 12 years, so I went back 2 years ago. And I saw a huge difference in development. I mean, there are buildings all over, there's major roadways and highways, and Chile, I guess there's banks from Chile and developers from Chile that are building huge malls and retail centers. But I saw that, I went to Medellin and I went to Bogota, right? And part of my family is from Cartagena. So in Cartagena, there is mostly residential because it's like a coastal city. It's like kind of like Miami Beach. So there's like different developments going on, but corruption in Colombia is, you know, it's huge, like I guess in South America, everywhere. But so how do you know how that plays along? Because I know there's good politicians, there's some cities that have more corruption than others, but at least I see that the country is growing, that there is, you know, development, that there's money coming in, that there's jobs. So how does that play a part, like in Ecuador, Peru, or wherever you guys are?
There's I don't know his name, but one of the heroes, do you know what ULI is? Urban Land
Yes.
Decision? Okay. If you go back into some of the ULI archives, you'll find some tremendous articles and discussions about the mayor of Medellin. And one of the things that this mayor did is he created and spent government money on improving social infrastructure. He built libraries, you know, he built gardens, he built parks. He made the environment nearby safe to create this atmosphere of the people that, you know what, this is okay. This is a nice place. I like being here. When you have that, yeah, well, of course.
Better than Miami.
Right, but you know, but if you can create as a government, if you can create that environment, I think that's the primary job of the governments all over the world. You can create that environment. Pike will build an office building for you, right? Nicola will build a multifamily building for you, and they'll make it nice. They'll make it fit within that environment, and that's how you create it. There's a tipping point, you know, is a half-acre park on the corner enough? You know, it all depends on where it is. But I think that the role of government is to create the safe environment around our social infrastructure, and then create the capital environment for private investment. So just get out of the way, all right? And people here, all you guys will be in the business. You'll know. You'll go back to Medellin and say, I'll do this. I can do this because I feel safe that my investment, that I'll get a return on my investment. There's always risk, but you can do that. The corruption, God, you know, that's a tough thing. You know, that's just a tough thing. I don't think you have to do business that way. I don't think you have to pay people off. But you know, it's funny but in all sincerity, I was talking to somebody, educated person, about the corruption and that it's against the law. Just, you know, it's legal in the U.S. What are you talking about? It's legal in the U.S. Well, what do? And we do it. You know, we hire the lobbyists. You know, how does Hillary Clinton get elected? How does anybody get elected? How do you get favor with governors, mayors, presidents? senators, representatives. Now, it's all legal. If I contribute to the campaign, right, then that's a legal thing to do. And that at least gets me a voice. That at least gives me the opportunity to go in and talk. And if you think that people in government are not influenced by money, even indirectly, then you're sadly mistaken. Very naive. So there's a line. I also think, and I'll also be the first to tell you, there's really a line. I can't go to you and say, look, if I give you this book, I'll give you an A in this course. That's wrong. I mean, that's clear. Cross the line, can't do that. But, you know, can you go up to that line and get an audience so that you can convince me that you should get an A? You know, maybe, be nice. but, so that's a hard question which we will be wrestling with. That's for greater minds than me. So. So I want to get to Pike and Nicola a little bit, okay? So I don't want to consume all of this. Pike and I, as I told you, go back 100 years. And we met each other sincerely, probably 25 years ago, I think, when Pike had his own business and was operating the Rally Group, which was a brokerage company in Broward County. And we were, as with Credina Group at the time, we were developing some work up there, and we were talking to them, and then one thing led to another ultimately, and then we acquired it. We acquired his firm, which was a great acquisition for our brokerage part of the business. I'm going to let him tell you the rest of the story, but that's how we first got together. I will tell you, by way of introduction, that when we talk about ethics, moral character, there is nobody that I hold in higher regard than Pike Crowder. Now, most people don't think of brokers necessarily in any kind of moral, ethical discussion, except at the bottom. And that's wrong, I'll tell you. But this man and the people that work with him, that he has nurtured, that he has brought up through the business, have all been, and all maintain a high quality level in that regard. So I want to introduce Pike Crowder too.
Is there no racer anywhere?
Yeah.
What's our time like, Fred?
Until noon.
Minus
Nicola.
Nicola's time.
Just what I tell you, Nicola and Eric have more interesting things to say than I have. If you don't mind, I'd like to get a feel for the listeners, the audience, right? So would you all mind just kind of volunteering and helping me understand why did you select this curriculum? And what are your aspirations? What do you hope, what kind of a job do you hope to get with these credentials? Who's going to go first? Go ahead.
I wanted to understand the numbers behind making a decision. I saw a transaction that others were turning down, a belly up subdivision. So I wanted to understand, not to get a job, but be able to have some confidence in making a yes or no decision. And I was just getting partial answers. If you don't ask the question, you don't get the answer. And these were the answers were very patronizing. And so I want to do something entrepreneurial, and I want to understand what I'm doing. It's a small shirt I have, a small blouse, and I don't want to lose it.
Brokers can't spell, by the way. I hate trying to spell words. I really do. It's my favorite thing to be. I just don't know how to spell it. All right, who else?
I'll follow. He's hard to follow, but I'm going to try and follow. I'm an engineer, professional engineer. Been working in the back end of the real estate industry for a number of years, doing what engineers do. And over the past couple of years, I've gotten this bug about real estate investment. Essentially, after I bought a condo, which I pretty much stole from the bank by negotiating, and I figure I could leverage some of that experience at the front end of the real estate industry. So I'm here to try and learn more about what's going on the front end, to see if I can leverage some of that skill.
So while you're keeping your day job, maybe do some part-time
Exactly.
investing, and maybe the investing might lead you into doing that for full-time.
Exactly.
Right. So you can be the guy on the yacht at 3 a.m. when I turn on the TV that says, "Let me show you how to buy houses, no more."
Well,
By the way, he got me. That's how I used to. I played tennis my whole life, and I ended up in country clubs teaching tennis. And it's like, man, I really don't like doing this. I want to go out and buy 100 houses and rent them out and be the guy in the boat, waving to everybody. You too can do this.
There's this guy out there, Graciola, I think he is, real estate guy. Yeah, I don't know where he got my name from, but he's been hounding me.
So believe it or not, when I was still out sweating it out in the sun every day, teaching some of the children who didn't want to be there, I heard about this no money down seminar for buying houses, and I went for 2 days. And God's honest truth, I learned more in that 2 days than any real estate course I ever took, because at the end of the day, it was about leverage, and it was about financing. It was just about the ABCs of investing and buying something and stacking the financing, and where it gets sketchy is taking advantage of the unsophisticated seller in a no money down transaction, and then if it doesn't play out, you walk away, they get burned. That's the sketchy part of these no money down things. But the course booklet was actually kind of interesting.
So my background, I was a soldier, and I was overseas in Iraq. This is my second tour. The violence had gotten to a level that we could do things, and so I ended up working a lot with the city, the mayor, the engineers, the city council was a big play, and as well as obviously the contractors and locals. And we were building projects. Our funding source was USAID and State Department, but ultimately I still had to bring all those other stakeholders together. I had no idea that was development, no clue. But remember feeling that I'd like to do that here at home, because
You
ultimately
did development in Iraq.
I did, but ultimately dealing with political people, whether it's Iraqi political people or U.S. political people,
Yeah.
they're very, very similar in their objectives and their goals. They just want to get reelected.
So the aspiration would be to be a developer in some way, shape, or form in the workplace.
My background is construction, and I'm working for a few very good companies, and then I got to the point that I wanted to do my own kind of building, so I didn't have the right instruction to how to access to capital, how to manage capital, how to gather people with capital. So it was about access to the capital and make my buildings come alive.
Okay. Who else?
Yes, I'll go. My background, I'm a general contractor, licensed in the state. I started out working for my dad's company, then after I graduated, I went to work for Skanska. After working for Skanska, I kind of went out and started my own company. Right now, we do a lot of roadway construction, and the goal is actually to be like an international firm, like where we go into countries like Africa, where it's like a third world country, and we develop from ground up electricity to land, just pretty much building a first world country market in a third world country. And then
Do you own the firm?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's the main plan.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm really curious, you're in here, presumably you're paying for this to have credentials, right? And you're gonna be sending a resume out to people, presumably, if you're not gonna be an entrepreneur, but if you're gonna be an employee, you send a resume out with credentials of this degree. So I'm curious, Who do you want to send that resume to? What do you want to do? What are your aspirations? Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what you really want. What is your dream? What's your aspiration?
I've always liked the international, I guess, market, and the fact that I speak, Spanish as well. I just, it's very interesting to me to not only work here, but work here for an international company like, your company is.
Yeah,
You know,
yes,
just be, right? Just like be able to get out of the U.S. and experience, a different world within the development business.
But yours is international, it's Canadian.
We have offices in Germany.
There you go.
And we're spreading. Go ahead.
I'm in real estate currently. I also invest currently, but I would like to put up a couple of small projects, and then I was thinking about going down to Panama, the real Panama, not Panama, Florida. Because I know a lot of the government officials down there, who I've had some nice conversations with, went to school with, the guy that's actually gonna run for president. He's the executive assistant to the president now. So I figured if I get in at the right time, and make the connections that I need, eventually I can put up some infrastructure in the city.
So I'm hearing a couple of different themes, and my curiosity is, how many of you are, your DNA is more suited towards, or your risk-reward personality is more suited towards being an employee and working for a firm with a salary and a paycheck and doing all the things that you're articulating to me that get you up in the morning and get you excited about being in the real estate business? But how many of you would prefer to be on a salary and an employee
I like
basis?
both.
Pardon me?
I would like both. Like I wouldn't mind, either one or the other. I would. Well,
I don't want that to you. Let me know when you get that. I'm with you.
She is a woman too, so they wanted to.
So raise your hand. Who wants to be an employee with a salary?
You know-
A nice, comfortable
It's like,
position.
Yeah.
At least in the beginning.
I just start. I
Now,
just
like,
start.
right now,
Let me explain
yeah.
why though.
You wanna
In
start?
like the next 10 years, I want to be my own boss.
Okay.
Well, wait 10 years.
I've got a very.
I mean, I need the
from-
experience before I can do it. I can't just say, okay, but,
Right.
I mean, I've been in the business since I was 19 in college, and then I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of helping me figure out exactly what I want to do, and like,
Right.
get the experience, and then I came here to get more experience, figure out like more,
Yeah.
and just like learning.
Yeah. There's a lot of wisdom in what she's saying, but listen closely.
So, I mean,
Go ahead.
I've got a varied background in construction management, property management, a little bit of asset management, and I want to work for, more recently, resort development as well. And the reason I want to work for someone else is because I like big projects, and I don't, I've always worked for developers and owners of large sites, so it's hard for me to do that on my own, so I'm looking for a development team that I can fit into and that has aligned with my goals.
Sure. Sure. Makes a lot of sense.
So my thought behind it, there needs to be some type of balance between the two, being entrepreneurial and actually working for somebody.
Yeah, you're gonna work with her. You guys will partner up and you'll pay each other salaries, and then you'll end up being entrepreneurs and break through the salary ceiling and make a ton of money. I wanna work with you guys.
So working for an actual company themselves, I mean, you learn from, I'm their dad, basically.
Yeah.
So you kind